Hey guys, it's Michelle with Cashel Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. Today I wanted to share with you a quick and simple thing that came across my desk, and I thought this would be something fun to share with you guys. So I saw this on someone else's YouTube channel and I thought, what better way to try that option out with Elizabeth Craft Designs measurement stamps. So I recently shared with you guys that I purchased this in a bundle that Creative Creations had, which you can find at different websites, so definitely check your local area. But they don't have a die for this stamp set because it's pretty much that you can just cut it in a straight line. But I thought it would be kind of cool to make some charms. So with the packaging that I like to keep sometimes from other places that ship to me is like this chipboard that they enclose in packaging, usually when they send you packs and stuff, basically just to keep everything flat. I thought, don't throw them away because we're basically going to be using them in this project. So I already went ahead and cut up different sizes because I'm not sure what's going to work great. And the sizes are pretty much whatever is in width format to what you want to adhere to the object, and I'm going to explain all of that to you. So as you can see with this particular stamp set, and use whatever you have on hand, I'm just sharing with you what products I'm using. You can see that there are different sizes to the ruler stamps that are here. And when you are sizing out your chipboard, you have to think about how you want it to be shown. Do you want it to have an offset? Do you want it to be right on the line? This is a preference that is only for you, not for me. And so that will dictate how big you want the chipboard to be cut in regards to width. So you can definitely see here from the, so you know, these stamps, they have a perforation, or not a perforation, a image displayed on it, so you know where to put what stamp, if you like keeping the backing of that. And it kind of gives you an idea, kind of gives you an idea of width. So this particular one is probably a good, what is it, quarter inch. So if you want it to be a little bit bigger, then I would just slide your ruler over so it looks like it would be 3/4 of an inch in width. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then like the bigger ones, you can tell that the height is about 1 inch. So if you want it to have a little bit of an offset, just slide your ruler over slightly, and you can either do 1 1/8, or if you want a wider gap, 1 1/4 or 1 1/4, and you just keep going with whatever you're doing. Now, let's say you don't have a stamp set. My biggest suggestion is to go through your scraps. Like for example, this is a strip from one of, I believe this is Vicky Booten's, or maybe Simple Stories, or even Doodlebug, because I have so many lying around. Of the product strips at the top, usually a lot of companies do have decorations on those. If you were throwing them out, I would suggest not doing that anymore and keeping a stockpile of them, because you never know when you may need something like this. I don't know why there's so much shadow, but pretty much you could use these. You don't need a stamp set to do so. I have stamped a little bit out on leftover scraps I had. Another thing is, this is a beautiful cardstock, and as you can see the pattern as it is, and you would just basically cut it for your liking. Here is again leftover cardstock that I had for Halloween. It does not have anything on the back, so it's a little bit thinner. But you can definitely see I can cut out the word spooky and scary and make a Halloween charm. So when I say charm, I'm gonna just share with you what I'm referring to. So in this particular video I saw on YouTube, and I'll put the link below if you want to check her out. I believe it's an older video. She made a stacked chipboard. Hopefully you guys can see that, where she just glued them together, and then she used, which we're also going to use, vintage photo distress ink. Now I think you can still use oxide, whatever you really have on hand, anything that you like to pretty much make it like you see here, distressed. If you don't want distress and you want it to be the color of whatever you're using, go with that. I'm just sharing with you what I decided to do. Now my tip for you that I didn't realize until after the fact when I was trying this out before I came on and decided to do the video is that you want to make sure that you're not stacking it too high of a chipboard, dependent on what you want to use as your little poker. So as you can see with this one, I don't have an eyelet or anything in there. I am using one of those light bulb safety pins, right? Or a pin, however you want to refer to that. So it doesn't have anything in there, but the thickness of this chipboard is going to be enough to make it sturdy. The reason why I say that is because I first did it and I was testing out my Crop-A-Dile Big Bite and I didn't realize it was on the wrong setting. So just another thing that I just wanted to share with you. Definitely make sure your setting for your Crop-A-Diles are correct because yeah, I did all this and then it's now one of those remember what not to do. So the reason why this didn't fit is because it depends on the size of your eyelets. Now there's many different styles out there. This one that you see in front of you is what I purchased from Hobby Lobby when they had their clearance run, I believe a year or so ago. So when I made this first, I realized, okay, well, these are too short. And I'll just share one real quick. Hopefully I can get my fingers on it. That you can see, hopefully you can. The size of it would serve no purpose to crop it because it doesn't even go through the whole entire stack of chipboard. So it would serve no purpose. I wouldn't be able to crimp it. So what I did was, instead of stacking it, and I think this one has 4. Yeah. Well, it depends on how thick your chipboard is. Remember that too. I think this one had 4. So instead I went down to 3 that I had stacked. And then that was enough for the eyelet to adhere to its side. Now, do you have to do an eyelet? No, you do not. So if you don't have that, that's fine. But I have them and I wanted to make with them. So that was my choice. The other thing I would suggest that if you're going to try this technique and you don't like how that number is covered, then definitely leave a gap or offset or move your line down. But my whole purpose was I wanted it to not be perfect. I wanted it to be random. And so then what I did on the other side was I had the rest of the numbers. So it goes 2 through 5 and then 6 through 9. And then essentially what you can do, you can still use the same bulb if you wanted to. The difference is that one would have the eyelet and one wouldn't. So if you wanted to make that eyelet a different color, you could to, you know, accent it more. That would be a good option as well. Or you can essentially just use twine. And of course, whatever color you have. Or if you wanted to use a jump ring because you wanted to attach it to a side of a dangle for the spine, you could do that. But if you wanted to attach this to maybe some fabric on a page or hang off on a paper clip, you could also attach it to a paper clip. I thought that was a lot of fun. So definitely a lot of uses for something so you have everything on hand. I mean, really, if you think about it, just go through your drawers, go through the piles of packages you probably have sitting on the side. And if you're laughing with me, you probably know why. And I'm pretty sure some of the products that's in your package, meaning the packaging product, you can use. So let's get to it after I've explained everything to you. I already cut up some pieces. So let's see if maybe this is a good size. So you see, I can probably even cut this down even more, and let's just do the first one. So the glue I'm going to use is Bearly Art. Use whatever glue you have, but I feel like liquid adhesive would probably be best for this. I did not try it with tape adhesive. So if you are going to use tape adhesive, try it out before you apply, and test it out, I mean, before you apply your paper so you don't waste it. So we're going to use these 3. And essentially all I'm doing is I'm going to be gluing and stacking them up one on top of the other. Another thing I forgot to mention, which we will do together, is in the video that I saw, the person used a nail filer or sandpaper or a sand scraper. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but she basically kind of like buffed the sides in case any of your sides were not level. So it kind of gives it a crisp look. So if you're using different type of cardstock and you're not sure if your eyelet will match, just do 2 and then just take your eyelet that you're using, because they all have different sizes, and just kind of like put them up to it and say, okay, well 3 was enough. So that way you see you have enough space there, so when you clamp it down, it is going to adhere. Okay, so the thing that I am using as my sander is these discs that Tim Holtz has. I'm trying to see if I have the packaging on hand, and it's the sanding disc. So essentially all this is whatever dauber you have. I'm assuming it has to be somewhat of this size, not the small ones. And this is, as you can see, very thin. And excuse me, I've used this a few times, so you can see some wear, but one packaging comes with 10 pieces. And so I'm sure it will last you a long time. And I think this is like $4 or so. So I keep it on hand in case I ever need it. So what I'm gonna do is, before I put any of my paper, I'm just gonna sand this down, and I'm just basically trying to get, you see, as you can see right there, that little thing sticking up. I just wanna kind of like make it straight, make sure that, as you can see probably right there, there's a bunch of different layers that are noticeable, and I just wanna smooth it out. Now, if you wanna skip this step, by all means, skip it. You could use a nail filer, I'm sure would probably do the same trick. But I just want to give it that crisp look. And I'm just doing it real quickly. All right, so then the next step that I do, I close up my glue so it doesn't dry on me. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ink my edges, because when I apply my paper, I don't want there to be a change in the style. So now I'm just going to ink it on all 4 sides, and don't forget to turn it over, because your ink, whatever blender you're using, may not reach that side with the same type of distress or coverage. If you're using your ink pad, the same thing, I would definitely just make sure. And then I'm also going on the sides to make sure it's getting that same coating that I want for it to have. All right, so for right now, this is what we have. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to put this cute little flower pattern on here. And because this was already, it's a product strip, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice it down from each side. And I'm just going to use my basic cutter, nothing fancy. If you want to use scissors, by all means, because it's very small. But it's your decision how you want to utilize it. I probably didn't get that straight enough. And then I'm just going to turn it over. Probably shouldn't do that either. All right, so let's get right there. So I'm just using my lines in my grid and to get it where I want it to be, and try to make sure I don't go over too much. Little at a time, right? All right, so I'm just gonna cut it, and you see I did do that. I went over too far. Exactly what I told you not to do. Whatever, it is what it is, right? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it close to the blue And so I want that offset all the way around. So I'm fine on my edges, but I just need to come down a little bit more. So maybe right below that first little bump. And again, you always want to dry fit something before you commit to it, just to make sure it's exactly what you want. And I think that looks pretty good. But what I also want to do is kind of give that some color. So I'm going to do the same thing with the paper. So whatever's left on here, I'm just going to go real quick on the edges. Now, if I wanted to do a different color to make it stand out, I could. And then when I put it down, it will look like that. Super cute. And then you have to get it back up again. Now, the other thing you can also do is if you wanted to put someone's name on it, you could definitely use a regular, or not even a name, a saying of some sort. All right, so we have the flower on this side, and now we want to decorate the other side. Now, you don't have to decorate the other side, but if you want to. And so what should we do? Do the flowers again? Should we? So we would go down to the green. And then I can just take that portion off, and let's see. Now I want to see how the blue goes like this, even though I know I took more off of that blue. And let's see how it lines up. Okay, I need a little bit off of the green. I also feel like this needs to be shaped down just a little bit. All right, so that looks good to me as a dry fit. So I am gonna take whatever's left over from my, and then I'm gonna make sure I get the blue on the right side, glue it up, place it down. So now the trick becomes, where do I want my hole to be punched? So that's a nice green right there, but the question is, what color did I want? So do we want to do it right through there? So I am going to take my Big Bite that I just recently purchased. That's probably why I'm playing with it. So sorry for the noise. I'm using this little bad boy here. I also have this one on hand as well, and if you don't have either of them, I do know that's in a drawer way in front of me, the old-fashioned with the little hammer and tool bit where you poke the hole and then you do it, all that jazz back in the, I want to say early 2000s is the Memory Makers ones that I have. But this is really nice, so you definitely want to make sure you follow whatever manual you have for your tool. I strongly suggest to keep this on hand because it does help you in regards to the type of eyelets you're using, because there's many of them, different sizes, etc. And then what cube chart you need in combination to make it work. So this kind of gives you that combination depending if a washer is present or not. So very, very helpful. Try not to lose this. And if you did lose it, here is a copy of it. Now this one is for the Big Bite. I don't know if it's the same for the other one, but hopefully that helps you. And so we're just gonna do this really quickly. I think this one's supposed to be on 3. Okay. So I'm going to set my hole punch to be that. I'm gonna put it in the little circle one and kind of gauge where I want it to be. So there is my hole, and then I slide it forward, and then now I gotta choose my eyelet. Why don't we just use the white one that I was playing with? So then what you're gonna do is you are going to put the eyelet, this is your top and that's your bottom, and then you are going to place it where it's supposed to line up. And I just gauge it so I make sure that it's finding its place. And you don't need to hear a punch, you're just gonna have it crimped, and then there you go, it is done. So you can see it's adhered to it, not as tight as if it was just paper because I have 3 levels here, but this is definitely a cute little flower power tag that can go with anything. You can still put a sentiment on top of the flowers, so it's super fun. So let's make something else. Let's do a little bit of a wider aspect. So here are the wider ones, and I kind of made this for the bigger what do you call it, the bigger ones, but that looks like it's too big. Let's see. So this one might be perfect for this. So what I went through my stash of my trays, and this is some remnants from 49 and Market that I had for one of my classes with Vicky that I kept to the side. And so I'm using that larger number palette, which I think is this one from the Elizabeth Craft Designs measurement stamp set. And so what we're gonna do is I am going to use this to shave it down. So that's 1 inch, and let's see how big this is. This is 1 inch, and I want a little bit of an offset, so I'm just gonna go in a little, I think 1/8 of an inch on each side, and hope this does not shift, and it did. It's very hard to make sure with those small increments that nothing happens. This is very thick. So again, you could definitely put it on here and see how that looks. And I feel I can shave another inch off, another 1/8 of an inch off of that. So I'm going to try to do that and hope I can. I think my blade needs to be replaced. So if this does not work, I might do that. Okay, so now I shaved it off even more. Okay, so I took off that. So that's a good offset in my opinion. I do see that this has pink on it, so let's try a different color. Now, I have different, I know I'm weird. I have different tools for different substrates. And I've learned early on in getting back into crafting that I don't want to use my paper trimmer for cardstock. And since I acquired the Tonic, I don't know what this is called. It's just the Tonic Studio one that has the big giant slicer. It's really good for chipboard. So now is the question of figuring out how long I want my little measurements. And so using my ruler, I'm probably going to figure out how I want to gauge my thought process. So if I want to have my hole there, I might want to do it 2 inches. So let's do that. So I'm just gonna feed this through, and I am gonna go to my 2-inch mark, and I'm just gonna do 3 of these at 2 inches because I probably could have gone further up, but anyways, 2 inches and 2 inches, and use that for leftover parts. You definitely want to make sure that they are all even, because even though I was measuring them, sometimes they were not even, believe it or not, because I wasn't paying attention. So let's see what kind of pink I have in my distress line. I have Spun Sugar. I think that's pretty. Worn Lipstick actually might be nice. And Victorian Velvet. I'm gonna go with Worn Lipstick. And what I do is I keep my little daubers underneath them so I don't lose them, as well as I don't mix them up with my distress. All right, so I'm gonna take this one off. That is my vintage photo. And we're gonna use this one, which they're getting old, as you can see, but that's okay. They just reapply. It's not a big deal. gets the job done. All right, so, oh, I gotta also cut this, but let's do this first. So we're gonna go ahead and apply this to each other. So I'm just gonna, again, give it some glue. And as you saw the first time, I mean, at least the Bearly Art, I also know I don't use the art glitter glue, but I've heard that it adheres rather quickly. But you definitely just want to make sure that it doesn't slide on you while it's drying. So I'm just keeping a tight grip on my fingers as I'm placing the next layer on top. And I don't have a pink eyelet on hand with me because I really wasn't thinking that far in advance, but we'll use a black one. All right, and now what I'm going to do is make sure it is level or straight, flush, however you want to do that. And it does, at least this method, it does raise it up slightly. I don't know if you can kind of see that little lip. So then I just go at an angle, at a slant, and just kind of like make that, see, like maybe you can see that there. And then I just go down at as an angle, and it kind of like flushes that out to make it level. And again, you don't have to do this step. I just thought it was nice to have it look like it was all one chipboard and not multiple layers. That I think is essentially the purpose, but I could be wrong. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna give it some color, and I think this color, let's make sure this works. If not, I'll get a different dauber. Probably would be better if the chipboard wasn't brown. But I see the pink coming through. And again, you definitely want to make sure you do it to both sides, because as you can see, my ink did not go to the other side. And you just want to give it as much ink as you want to, because it is your own. But I thought this was a great way to use up your stash. Not your stash, but your leftovers. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. There I can still see the layers, but that's okay. All right, so now we're going to cut this down to my 2 inches. So I'm gonna use my regular cutting tool, and let's make sure we're gonna dry. Oh, that's right, because that's 2 inches. This one shouldn't have been 2 inches. We should have done it at 1 7/8. Let's cut it down just a little bit. There we go. Super cute. But I feel like there's not enough pink on this side for some reason. I definitely like, I mean, I would keep with my photo, my vintage photo color, because it seems like this with the brown is not really giving me the color I want. But let's go ahead and give this some color on top of the cardstock itself and put it down and see what it looks like. Doesn't look terrible. Not like it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look bad. And we're just going to put this on. There we go. And now while that is drying, we're gonna go back to our paper and see, can we do the 3 and 4 on the other side? So yeah, we can. So this time I'm not going to go 2 inches. I think we're going to do 1 7/8, and then hopefully that fits perfectly. Or did I make it too short? Nope, it looks like I made it exactly the right width. All right, so I'm gonna get these little fuzzies off because I really do think I need a new blade. So just get those little fuzzies off, and then I'm gonna use, you know what might be better against the brown is the Distress Oxide, because I think it has a stronger pigmentation than the Distress ink. Just thought about that. And the oxide I do not have on my desk. So, all right, so I just want to make sure it goes the same way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just the way I'm looking at it. I don't think it really matters, but if you are like me and you want it to be, you know, cohesive, I just look at it like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how I'm viewing it. But honestly, I'm sure it does not matter. All right, so now we have this done. All we need to do next is put a hole in it. And do we want it to hang like this? Yes, we do. So again, I'm going to use the same style of eyelets. So all I have to do is slide this back to my 1/8. Now, if you're using a larger one, they do have a 3/16, and that would be the bigger hole for the bigger eyelets. So again, you definitely want to make sure before you do anything that you're using your right hole punch and your right measurement. And if you're unsure, don't try it on the product you just made like I did. Try it on something random. And I'm just eyeballing it here off to the side. I just want to make sure I don't go too close to the edge and try to find it in the middle. And there we go, is our hole. And then I'm going to slide it forward. And then we are going to get a black one to put in. And these things are so tiny. And again, we're going to do the same thing. So we're just going to put it there in the front. And I'm just basically following my hole as it comes down to make sure that it is where it needs to be, and I'm just crimping it, so therefore it just adheres. And I feel like it didn't really do anything, but it did. Probably 2 would probably be better than 3, but there you go. And so that's really what I wanted to share with you guys today. I'm pretty sure we can be here all day showing you all these different things. And like I shared with you before, you could definitely use these to go through here. You definitely don't want to go too far down if you're using one of these. And then you can hang it that way. Or if you want twine, you could definitely feed this through your hole, whether it's an eyelet or not, and then you can make it more of a what do you call it, a loop-de-loop, and you know, have fun with it. And you can add it to something, or you can add a jump ring to it like I mentioned earlier before. So definitely let me know if you have any questions on anything I shared with you. Hope this was fun because I had a lot of fun, and I can't wait to make more of these, and I will be back with another video for you guys. So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for hitting that like button and your comments. I really appreciate them, along with your subscriptions to my channel. It definitely shows that you guys like the content and you want to see more. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.